Yo guys, Jonathan here. Today I thought it'd be fun to talk about something that quite a few people assume. I'm sure you've seen the comments. My good friend, Dave2D, swore that it was true.
Quite a few people think that your Apple-related content is sponsored. Is this true? So, have you ever been paid by Apple? Like $5, anything. Have you ever been paid by Apple?
Not a cent.
Nothing.
Nothing. I feel like it's a giant negative when
What
you
is?
factor in like buying stuff, right?
Okay.
But then like there's the events, like they've never paid for a hotel, they've never paid for a flight.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Like,
As someone that's never been invited to one, I seriously didn't know.
right, and that's the weird part is like, and I've publicly stated this, like I've done sponsored stuff with, you know, Samsung, LG,
Okay.
Google,
Okay.
but I'm like in the opposite realm.
Okay.
My answer was, and still is, not even a cent. Yeah, I enjoy and I use Apple products. I've tried to make that transparent and clear. I've just gotten to the point where I wanna make videos that I wanna make, videos that I enjoy, and not really be something that I'm not. It honestly just gets exhausting playing the tech game and the tech race, feeling like you have to talk about every single thing, even if you're not super into it. And the end result just isn't good for anybody because I want to talk about things the same I would to a friend or family. One thing I think people do sometimes overlook is, yeah, I do use Apple products, but I've never been afraid to call them on their crap.
So next up is the Apple Pencil, and not so much the pencil itself, even though it's pricey as hell. I think for what it's geared for, it does a fantastic job, but more so the way you charge this thing is ridiculous.
While its battery lasts for hours of use, a lightning connector lets you recharge by plugging directly into iPad Pro.
Now, I've absolutely done sponsored content, and if you're a YouTuber or a creator, go out and get your money. There's nothing wrong with that. I've worked with other brands, but with Apple, I don't think I would ever want to take a dollar because for me, it's something that is truly genuine. You then have those who are bashing their Cherry MXs, screaming into their 240 hertz monitor saying, well, you go to the event, you see the phone early, that's the same as getting paid. And to counter that, I'll say one, Apple in particular doesn't pay for hotels, flights, other companies do. So if you add that up, calculate that, that is going to increase that negative even more. Third, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's not a cool experience to go to an Apple event. Like, I remember the early days of YouTube, just struggling, trying to figure it out, not knowing what white balance was, just working. And when you finally get to go, like that's something you gotta be proud of. Now, with that out of the way, I thought it'd be fun to sit down, have a little story time, and explain not only how I got into Mac, but Apple as a whole, because my first computer was actually a Windows PC. This was way back in high school, and that computer was some basic, compact tower that was paired with a 4x3 ViewSonic, the one with the bird's monitor, and it wasn't the craziest setup, but I was so happy just to have tech like that, period. I remember upgrading the RAM from 256 megs to 512 and feeling like this was the fastest, most powerful machine on planet Earth. It's where I kind of learned some video editing basics, Windows Movie Maker. So I gotta pay respect to the man behind me. Drop a like for the great Bill Gates. That's how I got into music recording. The first program I ever used there, I think, was called Traction, which is super ancient. And yeah, it wasn't fancy, but just to be able to do something like that was crazy. From there, being into music productions, I remember reading or hearing about how great Mac, Apple, GarageBand was. So I saved up my money, save, bought a Mac Mini off eBay. This was back when they were still the white Mac Minis. Got those GarageBand expansion packs, got everything in, loaded it up, and absolutely hated the entire experience. Resold it on eBay and went back to PC. From there, ended up working at a guitar store, selling guitars. I was getting more and more into music production and probably pushing that compact PC further than it wanted and needed to go. With the job though came the ability to save up some money, so I've been eyeing these super fancy, tuned and optimized recording PCs. I think Glyph was the company back then. It was around $1,500 or so, which at that time was like a ridiculous, ludicrous amount of money. Got it home, loaded it up, and honestly, I just was not that impressed with the experience, so I returned it and picked up a 21-inch iMac. That then introduced me to Logic Pro, which changed everything. That was by far my favorite just music recording experience ever. Now, as much as I enjoyed music, I always loved video as well. So naturally that came back. Jumped into Final Cut Express, skipped iMovie, enjoyed that, then graduated to Final Cut 7. And I think that was really the big shift for me as far as video goes. That is literally how this entire channel started. Final Cut Pro, an iMac, which eventually turned into a MacBook Pro, which was such a cool experience to finally jump over to a laptop. Years and years of just making videos. Then Final Cut Pro 10 comes, which makes everything even easier and simpler. And really, the whole reason I get to do what I do is because of Apple in a way, so how could I not appreciate that? I realize someone out there is gonna be screaming right now saying, you can do all that, you could be here with a Windows PC. I'm not gonna argue that. If that's your thing, cool, enjoy it. I'm just explaining how I got here. With all that and how I grew up with tech, how I've seen it evolve from then into now, I think I tend to appreciate things just a little bit more. Like the stuff we can do now is insane. Going back to that compact PC or just trying to record music, or honestly, even going to Final Cut Pro 7, having to use physical tapes, transfer that via FireWire, waiting for it to play in real time versus now. It's also not just limited to computers. We can do most of that stuff with our phones, which is mind-blowing. So while most of us tend to complain about camera humps or bezels or notches, I think we just gotta appreciate that we have these amazing devices at our disposal, and there's never been a better time to be alive as far as tech goes. So that is how I got into Apple, why I use their products, why I enjoy their products. Maybe you don't like them, cool, but if you respect where I'm coming from, drop a like down below. Speaking of new tech, I am super excited for both the iPhone 11 and the 11 Pro. Got some hands-on videos of those already, so if you missed that, I will drop a link down below, but I will also have some way more in-depth coverage coming soon, so subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys for watching. This is Jonathan, and I will catch you guys later.